Goods fam on Twitch. This is Philly Good, and we're going to be learning about the MPCX again today. We're on chapter, what is it? Chapter 15, Chopping Drum Breaks Part 1. So if you have the MPC Bible, you can follow up your tutorial files, and yeah, let's get into it. But before we do, just don't forget, follow, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'm here every day 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and here we go. Chopping Drum Breaks Part 1. Let's start up our MPCs actually. Turn on the speakers. And so here we go. One of the most important skills a beatmaker can possess is the ability to chop samples. Chopping is the gateway to a wealth of creative possibilities, and the MPC offers perhaps the most intuitive and creative chopping functionality of any sampler or workstation. Basic chopping using the extract function. As we'll soon see, the MPC features a dedicated chop mode designed for efficient and creative slicing, chopping of samples, loops and songs. However, first let's look at the most basic way to chop a sample using the extract function. Actually, so what we're going to do is we're going to go into our MPC X Bible tutorial files, go to the chapter 15 folder, and they're asking us to load up the sample, the dirty break file. So dirtybreak.wave. So I just loaded it up on pad 10. So once we have that loaded up, we go to sample edit and have a listen. I just did that, but we'll do it again. Nice. All right. It's a looped drum break with a tempo of 85 BPM. You can see that down here. And let's say I just want to chop that second main snare out of the break so I can use it as a standalone snare sample in a drum kit. To chop it using the extract function, we'll first have to set our sample start and end points so that they're isolated, so that they isolate nothing but that second snare. With snap 0 engaged, set your initial rough start point. Okay, wait. We're gonna engage snap 0, so you press shift and then snap 0 at the bottom. And then what they want us to do is set the start point to 93980. Whoa. Mine doesn't seem to really get to that point. So let's see if I can just enter it manually. 93980. Alright. So it snapped to 93981 automatically, so I couldn't set it directly to that, but that's pretty close. And they want the endpoint set to 109462. And I'm not gonna try and scroll there this time. I'm just gonna try and set it directly because it seems to be easier when the snap's on. 109462. And do it. Alright. So that's all set up. Now we're gonna zoom back in and make the final adjustments. So they set the start of 94045. What? And an end of 110452. 110452. Alright. Pretty close. Press process at the bottom of the screen and turn the data wheel clockwise to select the extract function. This function is the opposite of discard, as it takes all the data between your edit points and creates a new sample out of them. Okay, sweet, I like that. You'll see the MPC has suggested a new name for your extracted sample. They called it Dirty Break 1 down there. So tap in the text field and rename it to Dirty Snare. Alright. Now press do it, and it creates the new Dirty Snare sample, but also leaves your original break completely intact. The start and end point markers will still currently be set either side of the snare. So using this method, you now have two samples, the original break and the extracted snare. To view the new snare, tap on the sample name so that field at the top left of the screen, and use your data wheel to scroll to the Dirty Snare sample. There it is. Or double tap on it to select it from the pop-up list. So you can just scroll right to it like that. So now using the dedicated chop mode, the extract function is a perfectly reasonable way to extract individual portions of your samples. However, there's a far more efficient way to extract multiple sounds or regions from a break, which is chop mode. Let's start with the original Dirty Break file. Before we change the start and end points, so you could just either reload it from the browser, or you can use your undo history, or you can do what I just did and drag the start and end point markers back to their respective ends. Now in the sample edit screen, which is what we're in, press the trim button at the bottom left of the screen, and the button changes to read chopped now. So now we're in chop mode. Locate the chop to options panel at the bottom of the screen and select the regions button. When chopping to regions, the MPC initially splits your break into 16 equal parts. Tap regions and change this from 16 to 8. I don't know how to... Oh, I see. Okay, right here, right beside it, it has a little regions area. You can scroll and change it. So now it's down to 8. So the MPC splits up the break into 8 equal parts. Notice the 8 illuminated pads. Each region is now automatically assigned its own preview pad, with the currently selected region in green. The rest are all in yellow. So hit pads A01 through to A08 to hear each individual region. Pad preview. One shot or note on. Hold down shift and you'll see the one shot option at the bottom left of the screen. When set to one shot, each pad hit will preview the region as a one shot sample. Tap this again to change the preview to a note on style. And that preview will now have the region, it'll stop playing when you let go of the pad. So it's handy when you're editing the start point of a long region. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Identifying problem regions. It's worth noting that a region's chop is not performing any kind of waveform transient detection. It just divides your entire waveform into equally sized regions, irrespective of the actual audio content itself. As such, it's often the case that you'll find that some regions are not perfectly lined up with the transients in your break, especially when dealing with live breaks performed by an actual drummer. They don't tend to have quantized options. The first thing I would say is that you don't always have to fix regions, because often the regions will still sound fine. However, when region chopping, there are 3 problems you may come across that may need some attention. Firstly, some regions may have a nasty click at the end. We'll look at fixing this in detail in the next chapter. Secondly, some regions will be too short, with too much audio prematurely discarded at the end of the region. And thirdly, some regions just have a bit too much space at the beginning of the region, which means the resulting slice sounds a bit delayed and not very tight. Let's illustrate this with an example. First, set a zoom level of around 19%. Where do you see the percentage? I don't really know. You can view the current zoom level by holding down the Q-Link button. The zoom dial is Q-Link 4. Oh, okay, I see zoom down here. So we want that at 19%, which is exactly what it's on right now. Luckily enough. Pretty cool. All right. So, alternatively, this will also show when you touch a Q-Link, but only if you've enabled show Q-Link status when touched. Okay, that's, I guess, on the either on the one or the live that you'll experience that, because I don't have the Q-Links on screen. Mine's automatically labeled above the Q-Links, so if you do have the live or the one, you'll see a little thing at the bottom of the Q-Link screen that says show Q-Link status when touched. So you just have to enable that, and you'll see the zoom there. All right, so to magnify the waveform, you have 3 options. You can pinch and zoom using the magnifier tool, as described in chapter 8, and you can also turn the Q-Link 4 clockwise or you can press the zoom in F4 button. F4. I don't know what they mean by that. They must mean this thing right here. I assume. So a zoom level of 19% is achieved from pressing zoom in 2 times, which is exactly what I did earlier at the beginning. So after setting a zoom level of 19%, hit pad A07. As you can see, the beginning of the region is not very tight at all. If you hit A07 to preview the slice, there's definitely an audible delay before the hi-hat that comes in. It just sounds sloppy. Additionally, at the end of the region, you can see that the open hat is cut off. Cut off prematurely, so ideally to salvage as much of this open hat as possible. Take a look at all the regions and you'll see that this problem is present in all of them. For example, here's region 1. Which is cut off prematurely as well. And you can also see that region 2 is not tight. Let's look at a nice speedy chopping workflow to get these issues rectified very efficiently. So, fixing the region, speed chopping workflow. We covered basic sample editing techniques in Chapter 8 using sample edit trim mode, and the core techniques are the same here. However, here in chop mode, the Q links are configured a little differently to normal trim mode. So check out the Q links on the side of my screen here. The start and end points Q links are the same, but this time there's no loop Q links. There's no looping in chop mode. So this speed chopping workflow is designed to use an efficient combination of hardware and software. Oh, okay. Give it a go and see how it works for you. Just remember that there are so often several ways to perform the same task in the MPC, so you can always substitute some techniques with your own favorites. The first 3 steps are used to configure the workflow. 1. 0. As covered in Chapter 8, setting snap to 0 ensures all our edits land on a nice click-free 0 crossing point. This is achieved by holding down Shift and pressing the 0 snap. Alright, number 2, select the end point. So we're going to go back to region 8 though. I think we were working on that before we got sidetracked there. So select the endpoint. In this workflow, we're only going to edit endpoints. I'll explain why very soon. So in order to ensure the MPC always zooms into the endpoint of our region, we'll need to select the endpoint parameter in the hardware. So in your hardware, tap the end parameter. Number 3, magnify the waveform. You'll need to magnify the wave to see the edit point clearly. Try to pick a magnification level that will show some of the surrounding waveform. A zoom level of 60% works well, which correlates I can't get mine to zoom 60 exactly, but 61% will do. So this correlates to hitting the zoom plus button 5 times, 60%. So if I go down all the way to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I can only get 59%, so there we have it. So with the workflow configured, it's time to begin editing. Number 4, select the region to edit. Tap the pad relating to the region you wish to edit. In this case, pad A01 for region 1. We're gonna go to region 1 here. Alright. Check the waveform. Quickly examine the waveform for any obvious problems. Also use your ears to listen out for any nasty clicks. As you can see from the above screenshot, or from what you're seeing here on my screen in this case, the end of region 1 is clearly too short, so we're going to need to extend the endpoint a little. Number 6, adjust the endpoint. We know from chapter 8 that there are many ways to adjust the endpoint in the MPC. For example, you can drag the red endpoint flag. However, in this workflow, I'll be changing the endpoint using the hardware. While you can use QLink 2, to make fine endpoint data wheel. Remember, we have the snap to 0 set and also have a decent magnification. By looking at the waveform until the endpoint, by looking at the waveform, I don't really understand what happened. Why? Oh, it changed from regions. I gotta put it back to regions. Okay, still learning. So regions 8 slice 1. If we zoom in, we can then take the endpoint to a 31791. For some reason, I just like any directly on it with the snap 0. It put me at the 31797. So in this workflow, I use my right hand to turn the data wheel and my left hand to tap the region selection pads while the view the waveform on my screen. Oh geez, I don't know, that sounds bad, but why is that like that? 2 to 3. I don't know if I'm jumping too far ahead here, but let's see. Once you're happy with the edit from a visual perspective, quickly tap pad A01 again to have a quick listen. Oh, okay, so yeah, I think I was jumping ahead a bit there. And if all sounds good, repeat the workflow from step 4 onwards for all the other regions. Okay, so that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to jump to the next region, and I see the end point there is not in a good spot. We're gonna zoom in a bit, take a peek there. See something there still. There's a little hump, a last little hump. If I can take this end point a little bit further, I think that's a little bit better. Okay, so now this one is obviously quite off. Okay. If I zoom in, what did we do on the first one again? Oh yeah, it ends right at the... Okay, so I should maybe be dragging these endpoints a little bit further so that it's right at the beginning of the next hit. Yeah, I don't want that right there, so if I can just... I don't know why it has to be at the top. It has that little bit of a clip in the beginning. We don't want that. I guess that'll have to be the spot right here. I guess it's a lot less noticeable. Let me see if I zoom in here. What do they do here? Yeah, see? It's on the flat before it ever dips. So we don't want it to be hitting the dip before. The next part of it will actually bring this endpoint further to the next. If I can take a closer look, that's actually perfect. If I zoom in now, what's this? Oh yeah. So we probably want that endpoint way over here now. Zoom back into like 60. Yeah, we don't want to be hitting that dip. I can see it go up slightly right there, and then okay. Let's check that out. Yeah. We'll bring that point over here probably. And we'll zoom in. Yeah, that would be it right there before any dip. Alright, perfect. Oh, I could get it one clip over. That's perfect. Alright. Let's see where we're at now. Bring that end point to the next wave there. Zoom that in. Bring it over. Yeah, we don't want that dip clip, so we're gonna go to the next one. All right. This one's tough. It seems to be right in the middle of a sound, actually. That's not the proper endpoint. It would be right here at the beginning of this sound. From what I can see, that's pretty close. Oh yeah, it's right after the dip though. I think there's a little hit right there. Yeah, we'll put it right there. And then we'll zoom in, check out this last little piece. Number 8. Probably want the end point to keep going past that little, yeah, right to the end there. Alright, now that we've got them all edited, let's take a listen. I believe maybe the end point on number 3 should be a little bit further on the next hit, actually. Yeah, we're gonna zoom this one in and fix this one, because I don't think it's at the right spot. Yeah, so that would be it. That makes more sense. Alright, so that's our edit of the breaks there that we did. Now, shared edit points. Before I get into that, I'm just going to take a quick sip of water. Hope everybody's doing well out there. If you can, please jump in the chat. I'd like to get 5 people in the chat if at all possible. That's my goal for today. And I would love to finally make that happen. Been trying for a little while now. So if there's 5 people here, please help out. And hey, DJ Whisper. Sorry, I'm chatting with DJ Whisper 1984. Just wanted to reply to his message. I guess I could just say it out loud because he can hear me. All right. Well, I wanted to be participating in the chat anyway. So yeah, they're about $3,500, as you can see in my message there. But yeah, I just saw one used on Ottawa Marketplace that you can get for maybe $1,500 or something, and I think it's the gold colored one, which is even cooler. Yeah, this is probably one of the coolest machines I've ever gotten to play with, so I'm glad I got the X. You can use it in standalone mode as well as with a DAW. But it has so many different options. You can plug almost anything into it. So yeah, if you like it, DJ Whisper, I'd say pick up that one that's online right now, and it'll change your perspective on producing music. Now let's see, we'll get back into what we were doing here. So shared edit points. Notice how by adjusting the endpoint region 1, we've also simultaneously adjusted the start point of the next region 2, to make it nice and tight. This is because by default, adjacent chop regions have a shared edit point, so the end point of region 1 has the same value as start point of region 2. Get that one shared edit point correct, and we've taken care of 2 issues: the premature ending of region 1 and the sloppy start to region 2. That's why we only need to edit the endpoint in this workflow, as editing the endpoint of one region also fixes any issues with the start of the next region. This makes the whole editing process quick and painless. Here's the final edit after adjusting all regions. So they edited it a little bit differently in the MPC Bible, but all in all, it's pretty much the same idea. Just they were having it go off of different hits, and I see some of their chops even are in the middle of the sound, which isn't what they were trying to tell us to do. So I believe I followed the instructions properly. Exporting your regions. So how do we actually use the chop regions? Hold down Shift and hit Convert. Convert to gives us several different conversion types. But at this stage, I want to pick the simplest type of conversion: new program with new samples. Upon selecting this, the options available change. Crop samples means the MPC will create a unique sample out of each region, so leave this checked, which it's already there. Create new program, which will create a new drum program and automatically assign our new chop samples to their own unique pad, so you leave that checked. And finally, make sure you check the create events. This is going to create a new sequence that, when combined with our new program, will recreate our original break in the MPC sequencer. Upon checking create events, you'll be asked how many bars make up your break. Leave this to the default 2. Remember, in 4/4 music, 1 bar is 4 beats. Our break has 8 beats. So leave it at 2 bars, and then we're going to hit do it to perform the conversion. So now we're going to go to button in menu. Oh yeah, it's at the bottom right here, project. So you can see that the MPC has created a new program called Dirty Break. has the 8 new samples. Each representing one of the chop regions we set previously. So we're going to close the project screen and take a look at main. The MPC has assigned the new Dirty Break CH program to track one of the current sequence. I guess because I had something else loaded up. I had the loops compared instead of an untitled project. It added it to the next track, the next sequence, or in the current sequence, but on the next track. So it's on track 8. So it assigned it to the next available empty track in the current sequence. So we're going to hit pads A01 to A08 to hear our individual break chops. Now head over to grid view. We have our 8 events, one for each chop region. Oh, interesting how they had their setup. It just looks a little different, but it's all good. So press play start to listen to our break. Yeah, sounds terrible. That's because the original break was 85 BPM, while your default sequence is likely to be 120 BPM. So you have to go back to main and change the tempo to 85. Now press play start again. Still doesn't sound good to me, but alright. It might be because all the other things are loaded up. Here, let's see. We'll just solo it. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, easily rearrange the original break by playing the chop regions in a different order. From the chapter 15 folder, we're going to load up the regionchopping.xpj project file. Sequence 1 is their version of the standard sequence we just created. So select sequence 2 and press play start. This is their rearranged version, which they simply recorded in real time, finger drumming style, but you could record it using any method that they had discussed previously. As you can see from the grid, the new version has a very different event structure to the original. Mono program playback. One thing you may have noticed when playing your chop drum program is that it's not possible to overlap your chops. It's because a chopped program is set to polyphony of mono, as seen in Program Edit Global. It's right there, mono. If you want to experiment with overlapping your chops or overlapping any additional samples, you might want to add to this program in the future. You should set the polyphony to poly, which is the default setting for a normal drum program. Alright, so we're at chapter 16, chopping drum drums part 2. Should I get right into it? We have about 13 minutes left for today. I guess since we're kind of on the same topic, we should just keep going for the next 10 minutes or so. It does seem to go on for quite a bit though, so we're not gonna finish this chapter, but yeah, I'll get a jump on it and we'll start with this and then we'll finish it probably tomorrow. Thank you all for watching, whoever's out there. If you're here, please jump in the chat and participate. That's my goal, is to get 5 people in the chat right now, so that would be awesome if you could help out. Thank you, DJ Whisper. Thanks for sticking around at least. Thank you, DJ Whisper. But yeah, this is really for people who have an MPC or an MPC1 or live. If you don't have one and you're not interested in learning about one, I wouldn't really expect you to stay. Yeah, if you do have one, it'd be a lot more interesting for you, because then you can learn along with me. And it's really to build a group that'll understand and be able to discuss different techniques and things about using an MPC. So if you're not enjoying it, I can totally understand if you're just checking it out for the first time. But if you are interested in producing with an MPC, I definitely suggest getting one. And yeah, we can all help each other learn a little bit more about how to use them properly. If you are here and watching and enjoying, please hit the follow, subscribe, and the notification bell, and it'll let you know that I'm here every day from 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. This is Philly Good, and you are watching the Goods Fam on Twitch. Alright, so chopping drums part 2. Chopping down to individual hits. Region chopping like this is a great way to quickly remix a break while retaining a lot of the original feel, as each region still contains some timed elements, leading to a natural sounding performance. Region 1 contains 2 kicks. Region 2 contains a snare followed by 2 hats and another snare, etc. However, as we heard, when the sequence tempo was incorrectly set 120 BPM. The fact that each region contains these small timed portions means we must always keep our sequence at the same tempo as the original break. A more flexible method of chopping involves slicing our breaks all the way down to individual transients, hits. This way each region only contains the one hit. There's no timed elements at all. Head back to Sample, Edit, Chop, Sample, Edit, Chop, and select the dirty break sample. There we go. You can reload the original copy from the Chapter 16 folder. Now zoom into Region 1. Can't see your regions anymore? Check the slice parameter. It's probably set itself to all. Just hit a pad and it should start showing individual slices again. This region contains 2 kicks, so if we're chopping down to individual hits, we need to split this single region into 2 separate regions. A quick way to do this is to first select the pencil tool. Now simply tap just before the second kick transient. A new region is created at the point where you just tapped. So now you can use the usual editing options to adjust the start point of this new region so it is tight to that second kick. Oops. Another option is to select the new region 3. Just hit pad 3 and start to turn the top Q length dial column 3 clockwise. Alternatively, tap the Q parameter and turn the data wheel. Notice the new line on the screen. This is the Q playhead. So go to the settings gear icon, top right of the screen, and set the Q preview to before. Above is the Q play mode option. Set this to toggle. Press close, and now scroll the Q playhead through your waveform and you'll hear the audio at the Q playhead position. Continue moving the Q playhead until it's just before the first hi-hat hit in this region. Okay, I'm just gonna tap it in manually because it's a lot to scroll through. Now to hear what the audio from our Q point sounds like, press the play Q button at the bottom of the screen. And to stop the waveform playing for too long, hit play Q again, and this is where the toggle option above comes in. If you're happy with the Q position, simply hit slice plus and a new region is created at the Q point. This method offers more accuracy before adding the slice point. This way of manually adding chops is great for adding an extra region here and there, but not very practical when you're looking to chop dozens of regions in a break. So let's make life even easier. Under the Chop To options, select Threshold. If your screen does not look the same as above, make sure the threshold is set to 50, which it already is, and the min time is 100, or at least 50. The MPC has now detected nearly all the individual drum hits in the break. There's now 26 slices. And to preview slices 17 to 26, select Bank B. When in threshold mode, the MPC is detecting peaks in the waveform above a specified level, and assuming that these peaks represent unique drum hits within the break, this minimum audio level is referred to as the threshold. A setting of 50 works well for most drum breaks. Min time is the minimum amount of time the MPC should wait before looking at the next peak. A setting between 50 to 100 works well here for most breaks. And if you do ever have problems with some hits being detected, you can always add additional slices manually. Dealing with flams and drags. Region 12 in our break is a very short and quick drum roll, which is often referred to as a drag. Even short versions are called flams. While these are actually composed of multiple drum hits, they are hit so quickly that in all practicality they are fine to be considered as a single hit. So I don't try to chop these down. So we'll leave it at that for today. Thank you all for tuning in. This is the Goods Fam. On Twitch, I am Philly Good. We're looking at the MPC and going through the MPC Bible. I'm here every day, 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Hit the follow, notification bell, and subscribe if you can, please. And that's it. Check you out tomorrow. I'll just load up something to listen to on the way out. This is something I made up yesterday. It's the starting of a beat I was making, so we can check that out until we head out. Only a couple minutes left. Let's see. Thank you all for checking it out. Have a great day. Thank you. Check out DJ Whisper 1984 live on Twitch on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. He's got an awesome show and it's a lot of fun, so definitely tune in. And I guess that'll be it for today. Peace out, everybody. See you tomorrow.